Hello friends, welcome to ASP.NET tutorial. In this video, we will learn about WebRequest as well as WebResponse with a simple example. There are famous web browsers like Edge, Chrome, Firefox. Edge is the advanced version of IE, and Chrome is a famous web browser. The same way Firefox is also a famous web browser. These web browsers can send request to a web server, and the same way they can receive response from the web browser and renders the received response. This browser sends web request to server and receives the response back. So there are two objects here we are talking about. One is the request that goes from browser to web server, and the response that comes from web server to web browser. When processing the request and response cycle, browsers perform all the parsing and hides the complexity from the user. Right, so it hides the complexity. So all the processing is done by the web browser. That means when you are making the request, it will form the request header, request body, all those information, and sends that over HTTP protocol, which is built on top of the TCP/IP. So the information is transferred from the application. The application here is the web browser, to an application on the web server. The application on the web server will process the request and packs the response information and sends it back to the web browser. Web browser will receive the response and renders it. So all the parsing is done by the web browser. So whoever is writing the web browser, whether it is Microsoft Edge or the Google's Chrome, they will follow certain standard, and based on that they will form the request and parse the request as well as response messages. So when they are doing so, they may be hiding a lot of the complexity, and whatever they present, that will be in user readable format, and the browsing user doesn't know the raw data or the complexity. They may not be aware, the browsing user So the browser renders the information in user readable format. To see what fine browsers are relieving, let us see how the plain response look like. Here, if you see, we are starting a simple C# application. In that, we are making use of the WebRequest object .create, and here we are just forming a URL. So here we want to get into the google.co.in website, and we are forming the web request and sending that request to this server. So this is the web request REQ. So just formed the request, get response. So this will send the request to the web browser, because we already provided the address request.getResponse. So what happens, this specific call will hit the web browser, right? Get response. Web browser will do the processing. Then it knows that user is looking for a home page of google.co.in, and it responds back. So get response, and this response we are storing it here, right? Request.getResponse means here request goes and response is getting back, and you can see we are using WebRequest object and WebResponse object, right? GetResponse will give response, and this is the RESP, and we create a stream reader right? To stream reader, we are making use of response dot get response stream. So here we will be getting the stream, and we are doing the URL encoding to UTF-8, and our stream reader is created, and here we have the reader. So the reader is created based on the response, right? Response stream, and we are doing the encoding. So this is the reader. Now if you do console.write line reader dot read to end. So here we have a response, and response we are creating it as a stream. This is the response, right? We are creating it as a stream, and we are printing that here. Response 1, if we call, that's one we are doing. Read to end, from start to end, we are reading the response and displaying that in the console output window. So the output here is raw response. So after printing the raw response, we are giving a pass here, and yeah, that's what we are doing. WebRequest WebResponse. So we are browsing google.co.in, or we are sending the request to get the home page of google.co.in, and we are printing the raw output or the raw response. So without browser, or this raw output is what the browser takes and renders that properly in the browser window. So you will see that as a user readable format. Right, now let's go to the demo and see how it works. So here we are inside the Visual Studio 2017. You can even use a later edition or 2015. First, let's go to File, New, Project. We will go for Visual C++ and Windows Classic Desktop Application, and we will choose Console Application here. So that's the path we are picking. Practice area, ASP.NET C#, and we have selected programming language as C#, ASP001 underscore HTTP REQ. So that's the name we are giving here. So that's all. Here we will click OK. And if you see here, we are not creating ASP.NET application. Instead, we are creating the Windows Classic application. This is just to see how the response looks if we view that as a raw response. So let's stick with the framework 4.5.2. Here I'm clicking OK. So this is our console applications entry point. So let's turn off the code lens here. So these references, all this stuff is through code lens. So here you can type code lens, or simply type lens and disable it. Suppose if you like it, you can keep all those references. Here we included two namespaces. One is system.net and another one is system.io. Then inside the main method, we form the web request and make a call to get response. We get the response, and using the stream reader we read the response, right? I mean, we form the stream reader, and from that stream reader we read the response, read to end, and we are printing that in the console output window. Now we will build this solution. And if I run this application, the console will make a request to Google, and you can see this is the raw response. Right, doc type is HTML, and this is the response we got back. And you see, this is not in user readable format, and the browser will read this information and renders that in a user readable format. Just now you saw the demo. Thank you for watching. Bye.